How many of you know someone who has been through a mental health issue? Okay, wow, that's almost all of you. That shows how widespread mental illness is at the moment. And I would like to ask you, do you guys know what the global disease burden #1 in the world is at the moment? What people are spending the most money for, are doing the most PR for, are working on the most, and the most people die of, as of now? Who said that? You said depression? Okay, very, very close. In 2030, it's going to overtake cancer. What is the global disease burden #1 right now? So, just to give you guys a little bit backstory of who I am. First of all, we just launched our app. So if you're interested, just go to www.eqgame.com, download the app. It's all about numbers and traction, obviously. So, I'm a psychologist, and it all started out as part of my PhD thesis. I thought for the first time in history, we can reach 65% of the population on their smartphones. I mean, it's next to us when we sleep, we take it with us on the bus, to the loo, it's always with us, and that's kind of like the ultimate comfort zone, right, is the smartphone. So that's where we need to reach multiple people and to be able to, give them a low-cost possibility to do therapy. So I developed an application. We put it out there, and people jumped off like 1 or 2 weeks, even though we could prove that using the app for a month significantly lowered depression levels. And I thought, okay, I'm doing something wrong. My app sucked. Maybe it's just me. But then I went back to the books. I see my website. Good. Points for you. I went back to the books, and I saw that that's a problem with all of the digital mental health products, because if you take face-to-face therapy and just translate it to the digital world, you're taking out the biggest motivator, which is the therapist. You're taking away. And at the end, you're kind of left with a self-help book that is a bit of an app, so it's a little bit of interactive. And for that, you need a lot of motivation. And I don't know how many of you guys have ever downloaded an app where you want to like count your steps, or you want to lose weight, or you want to go to bed earlier, or you want to do something like that. And then after 2 weeks, you're like, never mind, you forget about it because you're lacking motivation. Well, if you're going through depression or anxiety, you have an issue with motivation anyway. And then second of all, there's the cognitive impairment. But the gaming industry last year made $108 billion revenue in the USA alone. And people that are suffering from mental illness, they play games. So we teamed up with Collision Studios, a game development company in Los Angeles that has been working on games like Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Barbie, American Girl, Scrabble, you name it, to design EQ. And the whole idea behind EQ is to have it be a game, that you're playing a game, you learn psychological skills, and then you practice those skills on an interactive adventure. So that's the whole story behind EQ. Now, emotional intelligence is very important, but I'd like to ask you, who knows what IQ actually stands for here? And what do you think is more important in work life? Like if you guys want to have a career and you want to make a lot of money, like is it intelligence, emotional intelligence, or is it intelligence? Yes.
Balance.
A balance. Yes, please, over there.
Emotional intelligence, because it's all company politics.
Yes, so obviously if you're very low IQ and you're high EQ, you're probably not going to get as far, but at the end of the day, EQ is much more important for success. And you might all know people who are not the brightest, but they're getting along in groups and at work and everything. You're like, what are they doing? And they have emotional intelligence. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm trying to make it a little bit interactive because I know that games get people more stimulated and get them to interact more. I need one person to come and help me who has nice handwriting. Please come and help. With my handwriting, this was like me being very careful. What's your name? Danya. Okay. Can you, we need, here. Okay. So we're going to start with talking about the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. So here, oops. There you go. Okay. So the first one. Okay. So can you reach up there? Or otherwise you can just, yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay, so the first one is self-awareness. Okay, you can just self-awareness, what do you guys think? What does that mean, self-awareness? Yes?
Knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself, exactly. So it's kind of like understanding why you feel the way you do, why you react the way you do, and what the background is or the history is that brings you to feel a certain way, right? So with that, we have to kind of understand emotions. And for that, I would like for us to collect just a bunch of emotions because that's kind of the groundwork that we're working on. And so we have here 2 different columns of emotions, and we're handing out, I hope this is not too goofy, but a SIF minion for negative emotions, and this one, what's it called again? Yeah, exactly, minion for positive emotions. We're going to just hand them around. You start. Can you name a positive emotion? Happiness. Can you put that for B, please?
Jealousy.
Jealousy. Okay, we're going to... no, I'm sorry. Just everything only starts with a or jealousy.
Joy.
Joy. Can you write joy under A, please? Okay, negative emotion.
Nervous.
Nervous. Spot on, right? Nervousness here, please.
Arrogance.
Yes?
Well, I just forgot it. Pride.
Pride. Under B, yes, perfect. Are you breaking my toys here? Negative emotion. Greed. Greed under B, please. Yes?
I haven't got one yet.
You haven't got one.
Whoa!
Honesty?
What just happened? That was
Well,
No, it's not an emotion.
what are you feeling?
Love.
love. Can you put love under A, please?
Stress.
Stress. Okay. Stress under B, please. Who has the positive?
I don't know if it's like an emotion.
Well, give it a
Like
try.
self-confidence.
Self-confidence. Let's put that under B, please. Negative?
Disappointment.
Disappointment.
So why is it space?
That's a good question. He's still a minion at heart, even though he's positive? Contentment. Next one. Contentment, please.
Depression.
Depression, yeah. Would you say depression or would you say sadness? Okay. Can I take sadness? Can I turn that into sadness? Because depression is like kind of widespread, but sadness. Can you put sadness under A, please? Okay, so let's do like 3 or 4 more. Sorry for you guys in the back. Or actually, no, everybody's gonna do an emotion. Okay.
I'm not sure this is a good one or not.
Surprise. Surprise under A, please. That's a good one. Yes.
Like, if I watch a movie, I watch like reviews.
Oh yeah,
Like what happened. And then
Like,
I read it back, like the ending.
Please say cringy.
can you write under B, lost, feeling lost?
Say ashamed.
Who has it now, the positive emotion? Trust. Yes, trust under B, please.
What was it, you know?
Or the feeling of trust, being able to trusting people. Okay.
What is it, positive?
Hate, that's a good one. Hate under B, please.
Social positive emotion.
Okay. Did you guys pass on
Self-satisfaction.
self-satisfaction? Okay. Self-satisfaction. Okay, where's the negative one? Red t-shirt. You guys didn't do it yet, did you? You did it? No, that's all. Everybody gets a chance.
you have to do it.
Fury. Can I change that to anger? Yeah, anger. Can you put anger under A? Thank you. Who has the positive one now? Yes? Amusement. Is that, are you dropping your hints? Amusement, please, under B. Okay, so you? Yeah? Negative? A negative emotion? Or an unpleasant emotion, doesn't have to have a value to it. Excuse me? Sadness, we have sadness, yes? Anxiety, anxiousness. Okay, so you put anxiousness. No, can I turn that into fear? Fear? Okay, could put fear under A. Okay, and then yes? Ambivalence. You would say that's a positive emotion?
Yeah, it means that you've got so much choice that you like both choices so much, you dislike both choices so much that you can't choose between them.
You know what, I think I understand what you're saying, but I think that's more of a cognitive state than actually an emotion. How would you feel about ambivalence? You
I feel like it's like one of those weird gut
indifference for life? Indifference, but I don't know, is indifference?
So passionate about two different.
Passion, let's say passion. Is passion good? Would that kind of fit?
Sure.
Okay. Passion with me, please. Okay, we have, I think, over here, one more negative or something. Would you like to add? Yeah, I think.
What?
Who said that? Shame. Yeah, okay, shame is a good one. Under B, please. Okay, positive? Excuse me?
Excitement.
Excitement. Yes, I like excitement. Please. Okay, and I think the last positive one. Excuse me? Important. Importance. Okay, feeling of importance. Okay, and now, can you guys see a pattern of the difference between A and B? But it is pretty. So nicely done. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just repeat them again. A, joy, love, sadness, surprise, anger, and fear. And here under B we have happiness, jealousy, nervousness, pride, grief, stress, self-confidence, disappointment, contentment, feeling lost, trustfulness, hate, self-satisfaction, amusement, passion, shame, excitement, and importance. Yeah, importance. Can you guys see a structure or find a pattern between why I separated those two?
Question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between joy and happiness?
In the psychological difference would be that joy is internal, meaning that you are internally joyful, and happiness is external, meaning that something good happened, you're happy about it. So you can wake up one day and you'd be full of joy and it's in you, or you could wake up and then, say, normal, and then something good happens, you're like, yay. Yes?
A is internal emotions and B is external.
Well, there is a bit of that going on, yes. So I'm not going to say no, but that's not the whole reasoning of the separation. Yes?
A is like your base core emotions, then B are more like developed versions of those.
Boom. Okay, so A is are the initial emotions. These are what we call primary emotions. And primary emotions are pretty much what all of the other emotions are made of. They're made out of the mix of the different primary emotions. And the reason why we're speaking about this and talking about it in context of self-awareness is because we usually feel and react to secondary emotions because you don't have access and understanding to the primary emotions. Because, yes please?
Emptiness.
Where would I put what?
Emptiness.
Emptiness. Definitely B. Definitely B, it's a secondary emotion. And it would be, you can put together a mix of, for example, fear and sadness could be emptiness with a lot of other things in the mix. But the difference is that to be self-aware is to understand what you actually feel and to react and to be able to process that emotion and not just the secondary one. A lot of times, for example, you get really angry with someone or you get like jealous, but it's actually fear of losing someone. Or you get stressed, and that is a mix of anger and fear. So it is important when you're being self-aware to understand, okay, what is the actual emotion that I'm feeling, and then react to that and be self-aware about that so that you don't react to something that has been, so what was written down, secondary emotions are conscious and unconscious value judgments placed on primary emotions. So if you feel like it's not cool to be to have fear, then you'll replace it with a different emotion, and then you'll react to that different emotion, and then you won't be actually working and acting and processing emotions in a way that is most healthy. So that's all about self-awareness, is understanding what is actually happening, what is the core of this, and reacting to that in a healthy way. The second part of EQ, or emotional intelligence, is self-management. I'm just going to write this. Self. So once we kind of like understood what kind of emotion we're dealing with, it's like, how do we process that? How do we deal with it? And how do we self-manage ourselves? So if we get really angry, sometimes we just want to rip someone's head off, or we want to scream at someone, or we want to break our cell phone, or do something terrible. But that has consequences that can be really bad. Like you can get kicked out of school, you can lose a friend or a partner, you can break your laptop. Like I bit into my phone once because I was so angry. And that was very expensive. So with self-management, the best thing to do is once you kind of understand where the emotion is really coming from and you dare look behind it, okay, is this because I'm actually scared? Like my friend, she's hanging out with another girl and I think she's actually, I'm just being scared. Oh, excuse me. Scrape that from the record, please. Sorry. You think like this person is a bad person and you're being very angry and hostile towards her, but actually you're just fearing that you're going to lose a friend, right? Once you become aware of that, you can kind of like take a step back from the emotion and you can start seeing it as it is and being able to react in a healthy way. And so maybe take your friend aside and say, listen, I feel that I'm losing you, or I want to have a little bit more time with you. Is that manageable? Or you were able to say, okay, I'm not going to send that bad text or something like that. So it's all about being able to manage your emotions because you understand where they really come from. Then the third one, and I think one of the most important one, is empathy. Who can tell me what empathy is?
It's being able to understand someone else's emotions.
Exactly. To be able to kind of read other people and understand what they're feeling, and also do that extra step and say exactly where is that feeling maybe coming from. And the most important part is like if you're dealing in a job or you're presenting in front of an audience or something like that, which is really important in at school, for hackathons like this, you want to understand what your audience or the person that you're talking to is feeling and where they're coming from so that you can react accordingly. So empathy, how do you become empathetic is you have to listen and you have to watch and you have to try not to be judgmental, because if someone's coming at you, like one of the things that I hate more than anything is when I'm walking and someone steps in front of me and they're like, la la la, and I'm like trying to dodge them on the path and I'm really in a hurry and everything, and I said like, why can't you just think and step to the side and everything? It makes me really angry. And I say, okay, this person is probably having like an hour extra time of their day. They might be lost, they're looking around, they have their whole different story, and they're not doing that to get at me, it's not about me, it's not personal. And that allows me to kind of like calm down and say, okay, I'm not going to kick this stranger. I do not have anger problems, even though it sounds like it. So it's about curiosity. It's like, where's that person coming from? Like, what are they trying to tell me? what are they probably feeling right now? And to step aside from your own emotions and try not to judge it, but really see the person. And the third one is relationship management. You see why I wanted you to write this. So relationship management is all about using all the things that above and adding timing to the mix, and then being able to deal with people. Like sometimes you're dealing with a person that's really angry or really fearful. You cannot get to them straight away. That means you have to self-regulate yourself, self-manage yourself, and say, okay, this is not about me right now. I'm going to take a step back and just take care of that person right now. And then at a later stage, you can say, you know what, you really hurt me the way you were talking. It's about being able to manage other people's emotions and your own at the same time, to say, okay, there is a timing for everything. Now I'm going to give you guys an example of a personal story of mine. I love to eat, and I love to eat all around the house. So like I would take a sandwich with me, and I'd go to the office, and I'd leave the plate there. Or I'd have a tea, and I'd leave it in the bedroom or something like that. And my partner hates that. He only wants to eat in the kitchen. And if he sees any kind of dishes anywhere else in the house, it freaks him out. And so we're kind of like dancing around that. And one day he came home, and he saw in the entrance a cup that I had forgotten there. And he explodes, and he's like, ah. And I'm just thinking, you know, this is nonsense. This is unfair. It hasn't happened in weeks. Why is he so angry with me? And then I started with self-awareness. Saying like, he's attacking me right now. I'm getting really angry. I'm feeling unjustly attacked and everything. And I'm also feeling fear, because when my partner's angry with me, it's like, I don't feel the love at the same time right now. So I can feel that. I feel anger and I feel fear, and it's upsetting me. But then I go to the next step, and I go to self-management, and I say, okay, I can't talk to him right now. So what I do is I say, okay, I have to pull back, and at a later point I can say to him, like, listen, you need to chill with the dishes. You know, it happens every 2 weeks, that's fine. But at the moment, he can't handle that. Then the third one is self-management, is saying, okay, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? Like, let me take this cup and put it into the kitchen, and like, tell me about your day, because I can tell you're really angry, and I don't feel it's completely about the dishes. And you know, after a little bit of coaxing, he completely calmed down. So that is a situation that, had I not known these things, and had I not been able to self-manage, we would have had a huge fight. Some other little thing, and then, you know, in previous relationships, before I knew that, you wouldn't talk to each other for 2 weeks, and what we didn't even remember it was because of the stupid cup. It's just because, you know, we were reacting to the emotions and to the fear, and we didn't understand what we were feeling ourselves. And before we come to the last part of our session today, where we learn different ways to be able to, you know, up our EQ, I want to know if someone has an example of themselves, for example, that they would like to share of the 4 steps, like a situation that they can tell us, either that happens often, or that maybe happened today, or that, you know, just an example that you guys would like to share, where we could go to the different points together and say, okay, this happened, how would we deal with it, with the steps? Oh, okay, perfect.
As basically, I was at university, and I was revising English through the exam season, and I left the room I was revising in just to take a break.
Yeah.
When I came back, I saw someone sitting on the floor. So me, I left all my books and everything on the table, and yeah, so I came back and I saw someone sitting there with their head down.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether she was okay or she wasn't, and I didn't know whether I should approach her or anything. So I went and sat on the table, and I was thinking to myself, maybe she might respond to my presence in the room.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know whether she just wants time off or like she's actually going through something.
Yeah.
I sat down and I continued doing my work,
Yeah.
but I had that self-conscious, like,
Yeah.
I wanted to see, make sure
Yeah.
she's aware I'm doing her.
Yeah.
And then I heard her sobbing.
Yeah.
I could hear her sobbing, like, and her face was down so I couldn't see. And she was, I didn't know whether it was right for me to even ask her, are you okay? Because sometimes you don't feel like, yeah, and sometimes you don't know how they would respond to you as well. So I asked her, are you okay? And she nodded with her head, like, you know, she didn't say anything.
Yeah.
It was a no. And then I was like, do you want to speak? Like, I took her, it was like over a few minutes actually. Like, do you want to talk? And I'm not the sort of person that would go speaking to anyone usually. I would feel comfortable and I would get someone else to do it. But in that situation, there wasn't anyone else. And, yeah. And I went to her, but she said she doesn't want to talk. And then I felt like I had a duty to go and see like her. Like that's just a natural feeling that came on that time. I approached her and I went to her and I was like, let's talk, okay? Can I see your face? And you know. And then she was crying and then she opened up to me saying the university environment wasn't like it was too loud for her, and then she said when she has a lot of energy around her, it affects her the way like she can't take too much noise, and she was just looking for somewhere where she could just sit down in peace and she was frustrated and angry that she couldn't find that peaceful place. From there, like just by talking to her, I got to know like she's also a competing student from a different university, and she does work on modules at my school. And it was really interesting, and she felt better at the end. And I think sometimes you just need a person to you don't have to tell them the entire story. That it's just someone there. Like, if you find yourself in a situation where you see like, oh, that person isn't normal, or there's something, you don't even have to know that person. It's just, I didn't know that person. A lot came out.
Yeah. I think that's a great story, and I would like to analyze it from an emotional intelligence point of view. So the first part, self-awareness. Let's say you didn't want to approach her, right? What do you think was the underlying emotion under that? For you, yeah. We're talking about you. We don't know her story. We're just talking about you now. If I may, go for usually when we don't approach other people, it's because of fear of rejection. Like you don't know, does she want to be talked to or not? You don't want to impose yourself because you don't want to be rejected. So that would be fear. That kind of translates into shyness or not wanting to impose yourself, right? So the next time when you see someone and you feel that that person is probably in distress and you're stopping yourself, it can register this is fear, right? And then you can either say, okay, I'm a fearful person at times and I accept that, or you can say, you know what, I know that it's fear, but I really feel that empathy, even though she said no, you could tell she was crying, she was sobbing, she was sitting there in a distressed position, that she was not well. And so you self-regulated yourself to be able, even though you were full of fear, to go there and to manage the relationship by being there for her and consoling her. And that showed emotional intelligence. And at the end, she felt better and you felt better, right? So that's a beautiful story. That is a good example for us. Do you have one more story before we go to the last part? No? Okay, so thank you for sharing. That was actually quite brave. There are a couple of things that we can do to kind of build your emotional intelligence other than downloading and playing the game and leaving us 5 stars. And that is to tag your feelings. So when you're in a certain situation and you feel something, you say tag it. What is it? What are you feeling? And don't be afraid to go to the primary emotions. Are you angry? Are you angry at someone you're not supposed to be angry at, like your best friend, like your mom, like your teacher? Like sometimes you can be really angry because people are people and they can do horrible things, right? It's okay to be angry. So tag it and go to the root of it. The second one is taking responsibility for your emotions. It is important to sometimes feel negative or unpleasant emotions. What we tend to do is we tend to kind of like, we don't want to feel bad, we don't want to feel jealous or sad or anything, so we're constantly trying to do something else. So the moment you get anxious, you go, okay, I don't care, I'm going to go on Snapchat, or I'm going to watch a movie, or I'm going to go to McDonald's, or people who are older than 18, I'm going to go drink something. That, it helps the symptoms for a while, but it doesn't allow you to actually process the emotions. And we are built, our brains are built for negative and positive emotions. So you have to sometimes just bear negative emotions and be able to deal with them, and also celebrate positive emotions. Like if you have a flirt with that person that you like, it's okay to do a little happy dance. It's okay to be happy with yourself. It's okay to celebrate, your successes and everything. It's important. Then listen to your body. A lot of times, if we don't really have access to the primary emotions, our body will tell us. So, for example, I'm not very good at public speaking. I get really nervous when I'm talking more to 4 or 5 people, and then my palms get sweaty, and I get like a weird fluttery feeling in my chest area. And so, I know what that means. But, for example, my mom, when she's afraid, she gets a stomach bug. And then so when she says, oh, I'm not feeling well, I'm going, what's happening? Like, what are you afraid of? And then it comes out that she's afraid of this or that. So sometimes your gut feeling actually has a reason. So we need to listen to it and say, okay, if I'm feeling pressure, if my neck, I'm constantly strained, I get fevers all the time, you get sick, your body is telling you something about emotions. Practice coping mechanisms. There are a lot of coping mechanisms that can help us deal with negative emotions and stress. Breathing techniques, meditation. I know like it's running out of your ears meditation, like everybody's meditating using Calm or Headspace or something like that. It's proven that your brain changes once you do meditation. And actually, it has almost a similar effect as if you're taking a pill, but it's actually healthy for you and doesn't have any side effects. So you can train your brain to kind of relax and be able to come down. Breathing techniques, activating your support network.
Is that a fire alarm?
Activating your support network. What happens a lot of times, for girls often have easier access to support networks, like if you're feeling bad, you can text your best friend or your sister or something. Guys didn't used to have that much. Like, try to reach out and be okay with vulnerability and say to your pal, like, I'm having a shit day. Again, language. I'm having a bad day. and just be able to share that, because every one of us has that. And the moment that you might open up and say, you know what, I'm a bit scared, your friend might be feeling the exact same way, and it'll be like, oh my goodness, I'm not alone with this emotion. And then listen. Empathy is all about listening. Stop broadcasting. Stop trying to interpret what other people are saying. Like, really listen, sit down, and try to see what the person is saying. You look at the body language, look at how they're talking to you, their tonality and everything. Because once you really listen, you will get more information than you ever thought, and then you'll understand that it's mostly not about you. They have their own story and their own baggage to do, and then you can start actually dealing with it on a different level. Then try to put yourself in other people's shoes. The people, like I said, the people that walk in front of me, I try to say, okay, they're preoccupied, they're on vacation, something's wrong with them. Their reaction is reasonable for the situation that they're in, and it allows me to be less angry. And then I think one of the most important things for these generations, you guys, is social hygiene. If you guys are on pages, or you're following people, or you're in certain situations that make you feel unhappy, and you can feel it, like you're going through Snapchat or Instagram or something, and you're looking at people that make you feel insignificant, or like your life is boring, or you're not there doing things that like blow your mind and you don't know how they're doing it, and you can feel bad about yourself, stop following them. Social hygiene. The person who texts you bad things, makes you feel bad about yourself, is gaslighting you. Stop having contact with them. Your personal mental hygiene is the most important thing you can have, and it's going to be your superpower through university, in the job space, in relationships, and you need to keep that clean. And even though fear of missing out is huge, but at the end of the day, I'll never forget this story about a girl who's an influencer. She went to Mykonos and she was at this amazing house and everything. She took 200 pictures, and the year after she wasn't invited again, so she posted pictures from the year before as if she was there. And I knew that, but a lot of her, I don't know, 50,000 followers didn't. And they're like, oh my gosh, she's always invited everywhere, she's amazing. We don't know if she's amazing. And you know, I can look like 20 kilos less if I sound like this. It's, you know, we have to be careful about what we're consuming. Okay, that was pretty much the end of my speech. Does anybody have any questions? Or would like to add some kind of like coping mechanism that you guys have tried? And
Do you think you can be logically empathetic? Like sort of deducing how someone's feeling logically?
Absolutely. That's self-awareness. That's all logic. You know, it's not like all mushy, like I'm feeling happy and it's like, okay, so what are my emotions? There's a reason behind there. There's a science behind there. There's even like, you can go down to the neurochemical reasoning for that. Doesn't make it less valid. You're still going to be angry. You're still going to love people, but you can be completely rational about it. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for listening.